I'm Paroma Chatterjee. I'm the CEO for Revolut in India. And we're looking to bring Revolut's seamless digital experience on the app into the Indian market for Indian consumers very, very soon. A bit about me, I have spent 2 decades now in the financial services sector, the first decade in quintessential banking, and the last decade in the booming FinTech sector of India. The fintech space in APAC is really, really hot. As an example, there were 186 deals that happened in APAC alone in the first quarter of this year. We saw $3.3 billion come in a single quarter. And that's on the back of a lot of innovation happening in various countries. Like India itself, there is already 87% fintech adoption. And that's being driven by 4,200 plus active fintechs in the Indian market, which has seen a cumulative more than $24 billion of funding come in, and the industry is valued at about $31 billion in India. So there is a lot of investment still continuing to pour into fintech in the APAC region. And the basic things that I see happening here is overall adoption within the underbanked and underserved segment. A lot of adoption around cross-border digital currencies that are happening in this space. And in certain markets, a lot of adoption around booming growth still around crypto. These are some of the 2-3 things that I see as trends continuing over the next couple of years in this region. Let me talk about the job front first. While we committed to creating 300 jobs in India last April when we first entered India, we're already at 480 plus in India. And this set of people are not just working for the India business, they're also working to support global operations of Revolut from India. So we're creating a very talented hub of employees from India, and we continue to do so, and that's rapidly growing. On the other bit, yes, you're right. We've made more than a $45 million worth of initial investment into the India market, not just investment in terms of finance, but we're investing upfront by localizing our entire data stack for India as well, in line with the regulatory norms over there. Which brings me to the second part of your question, how is India different? Where do I begin? India is not a single country if you think about it. There are many Indias within India, which is kind of like the European Union is a union of multiple different countries. So India is that kind of a union of multiple different states. And they differ from each other in culture, in needs, in customer segment, in preferences, in language, and all of that. So it's multiple countries rolled into one, as opposed to the other countries in the APAC region that you referred to, Japan, Singapore, Australia, which are more comparatively unidimensional, and therefore it presents a much more complexity and much more opportunity in India. The second aspect is the sheer scale and size. The India population is 1.4 billion, which is 1/6 the world's population. So if you look at countries like Singapore with a 5 million population, the sheer scale that you're trying to build for and deliver for is very, very different in the Indian market. The third, which we kind of referred to a while ago, is the competitive landscape in India. There are already 4,200 plus fintechs who are looking at this customer segment from various different lenses. So the level of competition in India with the sheer number of players that you need to negotiate is also very, very different. And lastly, the regulatory environment. So India has its own biometric-enabled Aadhaar, as it is called in India, Aadhaar-enabled payment system in India, which is unique. India has its own unified payments interface, which is processing quadrillion Indian rupees in transactions. So the India regulatory ecosystem and the payments rails are also very, very unique to ride on. So these are the 3-4 things where India is different from the other markets, and the uniqueness presents its own exciting opportunity for anybody who wants to make a meaningful difference in this market. The biggest hurdles, one, yes, of course, to deal with the complexity and look at the sheer difference among customers. The second is the entire regulatory environment on looking at the unique compliance norms and designing our platform for that, the unique KYC that is needed for customers in India. The third is localizing of data. So the data privacy, data security norms are fairly unique. So localizing our entire tech stack, which is 150 plus services for India alone, is a third complexity. And coming to a customer lens, winning the customer's trust in India, not just on a tech ecosystem and platform, but on an international player. So those would be the 3-4 hurdles for us to overcome to actually win in the Indian market, which we're fairly confident of doing. Oh, absolutely. So it's not just unbanked. So if I take a step back, in terms of unbanked, India has had a huge scheme under the Jan Dhan Yojana, which is literally the public money scheme, to open millions, hundreds of millions of bank accounts. So as a matter of fact, over the last 2-3 years, 600 million unique bank accounts have been opened in India. But that said, only 130 million out of the 1.4 billion population of India is still left unbanked. But yeah, that is 130 million people still left to bank. It's second only to China in the region. China still has 230 million people still left unbanked. Pakistan has 115 million people. Indonesia has 110 million people. So yes, the challenge to bank the last mile customers is still there, which someone like a Revolut can definitely open up by giving access to. Because on the other hand, if you look at smartphone penetration in India, that is pegged to reach 1 billion population by 2026. So on the back of that, I think people like us should be able to cater to the unbanked. But that may not necessarily be the biggest problem statement in India. The biggest problem statement, if you will, is underbanked. People whose bank accounts have been opened, but not necessarily being used, because you need to put in money and make it easy for customers to use it. That is where a player like a Revolut can make a significant difference by bringing affordable solutions and bringing a seamless customer experience for this set of people to avail more financial services on their bank account, whether it is investments into mutual funds, whether it is protection in the form of getting insurance, whether it is growing their money through being able to trade seamlessly and at lower ticket sizes, whether it is the ability to save money in accounts that earn interest, or whether it is pure play payments, whether it is peer-to-peer or merchant. So I think that entire ecosystem can get disrupted to include and actually give an array of financial services to the people who are banked as well. So those are the two areas where I definitely see Revolut playing a key role in the India ecosystem. On that one, I actually believe that the banks and the fintech ecosystem really need to work well together. So regulations require a lot of things to be done in partnership with the banks. So for example, if you're enabling cross-border remittances, the liberalized remittance scheme in India requires a bank to initiate the fund transfer across the border. So a fintech which wants to get into that space to make seamless cross-border remittances possible for Indians, for the global Indians, which is also something that Revolut definitely intends to do. You do need to partner with a bank to ensure that you are able to offer smooth transition and fund flow across borders. So that's just an example of where a fintech needs to work with a bank. But at a larger level, I think banks and fintechs need to collaborate very well together to create a strong ecosystem that solves for the real financial inclusion and serving the population with an array of financial products easily and in an affordable manner. Part of FinTech Connect Asia, what I find the most valuable is being able to share learnings from our own experiences in our markets and taking away learnings from what our counterparts in various other markets have seen and learned. And just the knowledge sharing is the biggest takeaway and the value that I see from an event like this FinTech Connect.